This is a proof of concept for a dynamic animation process. It means that people will not necessarily have to understand animation tools to be able to turn their model into a build process animation. So let's say we had some object here or an assembly, and if we have a suitable process to export each of these components or groups into a folder structure that looks something like this, where we have the part name and the step number, Houdini can dynamically deal with the step numbers and the part names and actually create the animation without with minimal user input. So I would create a plugin that would allow people to just simply point Houdini at this path, and it would create the animation that looks something like that. Now, in order to do this, the missing link is that from SketchUp, we need to be able to export our model uh, easily with these step numbers and these object names. And what we need is something like a Ruby script to be able to export each object name as the name of the OBJ. And if each object name is sitting on a layer, that layer name is the folder that it's contained within. If we can fill that gap somehow, then we can dynamically create animations based entirely on the folder structure and the contents within those folders. So Houdini, what it does here is, this is just a proof of concept, but what would happen is I would point my plugin that I would build to that folder structure. It would import all of the objects, and when all of these objects come in, they are able to figure out which direction to animate in, because basically, say this object here, it says, what's the closest object to me? It's that one. So I'm going to animate in from the opposite direction that I'm closest to. So those objects can move in together. That object moves in next. This object moves in next. And these are all defined by the step numbers in the folders. So you see at frame 10, that's when these two objects come in, and you can see here step 10 is where these two objects are contained. So this program is also free to use at this level. We can export animation generated by the GPU with the free version of Houdini. What's important about this workflow is it means that you can dynamically update animations as the model changes. So you'll never really have an excuse for an animation of an object to be out of date. If there are changes to the model, the process to dynamically update the animation is so straightforward that you can just really press play and you'll end up with the same result with, say, any updated component, or there might even be a new assembly that's attached to the side of a model, and you can press play and you'll have a new animation that represents that. So you won't have the problem which would definitely happen if you had people manually creating animations for every object. As soon as there's a change to the object, that animation is going to be out of date. I think that this is a really good workflow that ensures that every SketchUp file or every CAD file, because remember, any program should be able to export these OBJs, whether or not it's SketchUp or FreeCAD or SolidWorks. Whatever our output is, we should be able to create a workflow to generate that structure. I think SketchUp's a good start because its Ruby plugin interface should allow us to create a plugin that adheres to this structure. Once you've got your animation, we can export this to something like Final Cut, where people may add a script underneath. There may also be the possibility for us to create the script dynamically in a text file, and the text file would just have the step number and the text that we would want to display. So that way the script would dynamically update with all the timings as well. That's another possibility. Maybe for the moment, or in the initial stages, we could just stick to doing the text in Final Cut. It would probably look better being 2D over the top of whatever we've got here.